An expert NFL analyst believes Caleb Williams is overrated. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy here with Chicago Bears React, bringing you all the Chicago Bears news you're seeking out both during the season and now here in the off season. Before we dive into today's story, please take a moment and like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Make sure you don't miss a thing. This is going to be an exciting off season, and we're covering everything here on the channel. Now, this week is obviously Super Bowl week, and I think most people are aware of that. Maybe some Bears fans aren't as aware of it because they're still a little too depressed that the Bears aren't even sniffing the playoffs, let alone a Super Bowl. But I think by and large, everybody knows there's a Super Bowl happening tomorrow. Super exciting. And because of that, Las Vegas has turned into what is known as Radio Row, where you're getting all kinds of NFL experts, all kinds of media members, all congregating together in this huge kind of conference center facility. And there's a lot of interesting content coming out. And there are a lot of Chicago football media personalities out there interviewing all of the different NFL experts there and asking them their takes on the Chicago Bears. And this in the last 24 hours, NBC Sports in Chicago sat down and was interviewing Merril Hoge. And Merril Hoge, former ESPN analyst, also former NFL player, had some pretty scathing, maybe not scathing, but he had some hard words, shall we say. This goes as far as to say harsh, but some hard truths he spoke about Caleb Williams. And in his interview, he said, quote, "The one thing that is clear is that he is not special. He's not something unique like Patrick Mahomes. And I hope the Bears don't think, well, let's try to make up for our mistake for when we passed on Patrick Mahomes and go get Patrick Mahomes. The kid is not Patrick Mahomes. He ain't even remotely close to that." Interesting. So, for one, I've always wanted to caution against the people who want to compare him to Patrick Mahomes. Anytime you're hearing comparisons to the best player in the game, you should take a step back and be like, all right, someone might have that kind of talent, but the number of pieces that have to come into place for someone to go from having the talent of Patrick Mahomes to being Patrick Mahomes is immense. There is a lot of luck involved. There is a lot going on between the ears that's involved that you can't necessarily evaluate properly just based on watching college football tape. And so we should all just take a step back and say, like, if you're expecting the Bears are about to get Patrick Mahomes 2.0, lower your expectations. That's kind of ridiculous. But anytime Merril is going to offer his advice, I think it should at least be considered. Merril Hoge is notable for having a couple of pretty strong takes. One of them has been making the rounds a little bit, especially in the last 24 hours, which is the time that Merril Hoge got into it with Skip Bayless, and Skip was convinced that Johnny Manziel was going to be a superstar, that he was going to be the guy. And in the clip, Merril Hoge is like, he looks at him and he's like, no. I wouldn't draft him in the first 3 rounds. He considered Johnny Manziel to have like a 6th round grade. And you look back at that and you're like, wow, that was actually pretty accurate. That was a good analysis from Merril Hoge. Another one that he made was even last year, where he said, look, I would take CJ Stroud number 1. And he's not the only one, so we don't want to give too much credit there. It's not like last year was a slam dunk that Bryce Young was the best one. I think there were a number of analysts who thought C.J. Stroud was better. But he gets credit for that. He gets credit for saying, I don't see on film that Bryce Young is a slam dunk to be an NFL quarterback, but he did believe C.J. Stroud did. And one of the things he pointed out was C.J. Stroud showed an ability to play within structure. What does that mean when you hear that? The because this is something you hear a lot about when it comes to someone like Caleb Williams. Is Caleb Williams gets dinged a lot because he doesn't play in structure. A lot of his plays end up being busted, and he's kind of playing hero ball out there. He's scrambling. He's looking for the big home run downfield. To play in structure is to essentially do what the play is designed to do. It's to follow the coaching. It's to do all of those fundamental things within the play that is being called. Basically to do what you're being asked. And so in a lot of ways it's, all right, so if you're supposed to take your 3-step drop and you're supposed to go through the following progressions and then let it rip, do you do that? Caleb Williams has shown he rarely does that. C.J. Stroud, he pointed out last year, someone who always does that. Ryan Day, the coach of Ohio State, demands that of his quarterbacks, and he's notorious for that. If you're a quarterback of Ryan's, you have to play within structure. And the reason Merril says this is so important is because in the NFL, you are almost never going to have a clean pocket. You're almost never going to be able to expect all of the variables around you to be perfect, but you still have to follow the design of the play. You still have to play within structure. And so if he's already showing at the college level that he's not willing to do that, that he's someone who's going to break out of the pocket, is going to try to make some magic thing happen, where that gets scary in the NFL is your pocket's not going to get cleaner in the NFL, but the athletes chasing you are going to get better. And so to expect, and your windows that you're throwing into downfield are going to get smaller. And so to expect that you can keep doing what you did in college at the NFL is a scary proposition to him. So it's an interesting thought. We've looked at a couple of his successful takes. I think it's important to point out he doesn't have a perfect history of predicting quarterbacks. Back in what year was this? 2012, yeah. His analysis was that the Colts should take RG3 over Andrew Luck. RG3 looked very exciting for a season. I think in some ways this might be a little bit of a push because we'll never really know what RG3 would have been if he hadn't gotten hurt. But it did feel a little bit like an analyst who was trying to zag while the rest of ESPN was zigging. Everybody's like, Andrew Luck is the second coming, and he's like, let me go this way. Which might be exactly what he's trying to do now. There's another famous example when the Green Bay Packers, the Green Bay Packers, that team up north that we, shall we say, loathe. When they drafted Aaron Rodgers, he actually had the gall to say that Brian Braum, in his opinion, had more upside than Aaron Rodgers, and he thought Brian Braum was the real future of the Green Bay Packers. So something that's worth pointing out. And one reason I think that's especially worth pointing out is one of the comparisons that I have seen people make is that Caleb Williams isn't Patrick Mahomes. He's more Aaron Rodgers. And when you think about Aaron Rodgers is also somebody who has a tendency to kind of improvise a little bit. And so, again, take all of it with a grain of salt. This is one person's opinion. This doesn't necessarily mean he's correct. But when you're doing your due diligence, if you're the Chicago Bears, I would hear this and I would think, I want to know more here. I would want more information from someone like him because he's shown a real ability for this. He's somebody who, he's an actual NFL player, obviously retired now, but this isn't just someone who doesn't know ball. This is someone who knows what he's talking about, and he knows how to evaluate film. And so, at the end of the day, I think the Bears ultimately just have to trust their analysis. They got to trust their guys. They got to trust what they're finding out as they interview coaches and all these different things. But we will see what happens. So let me know what you think. Did you get concerned when you heard about Merril Hoge's analysis here, or do you think this is no big deal? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, bear down.